Alright, welcome in guys to Lord of the Rings Online. So I made a brand new account just to, show what you get and what you don't get. So this is going to be a 100% free to play account. So I will basically only be able to purchase things with LOTRO points that I farm in the game. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through all the races and the classes that you have access to as a free player. So of course, man, dwarf, hobbit, elf are the main four. And you also have the high elf unlocked, which is pretty cool. You also have access to the Bjorning. So the Bjorning class used to be locked and now it is free for all players. And the Bjorning class is basically it's kind of like a druid in a way that you shapeshift, but it's more focused on melee damage and not range damage. I'm not sure if they have any ranged abilities, but I do know that they are shapeshifters, which is pretty cool. Or skin changes, what they call them in LOTRO. But yes, man is always pretty cool. I like the way that they look. I think that, let's see if I can find, is it Captain? Yep, so Captain looks pretty good. So you have man, high elf, dwarf. You also have hobbit, and elf, and then Bjorning, of course, as I just stated. So those are all the races that you have access to, and then the Stoutex and the River Hobbit do require you to unlock them. And I believe that they're 1,000 each. Yes, so you can save up and then they're 1,000 each if you go that route. So, but we're going to go through the classes now. So the Burglar is basically, if you've ever played a rogue in a game like World of Warcraft or any game where you have some sort of stealth-based action, Burglar is basically the rogue or the stealthy kind of class. The Brawler is basically the monk of the Tolkien universe, so they use their fists as weapons, and they're pretty good damage dealers. The Burglar is also a really good damage dealer, but also a support. They are actually very orientated with where they are when they attack, so you'll probably end up needing to be behind other players or other monsters to be able to deal the most damage. So Burglar is really good in a group setting, not so much in solo unless you're familiar with the class. Yeah, Brawler is basically, punch guy. I haven't played a Brawler, I just know that they're basically very, very good damage-wise, and they can kind of off-tank. From what I've heard, I haven't played, so I'm not entirely sure. The Captain is probably the closest thing to a Paladin you can get in Lord of the Rings Online. So they can use one-handed weapons and shields, or a two-handed weapon. They also get access to Herald Companions, so they actually get a companion that can either increase the damage that they deal, help the party out with certain support buffs, or they get a companion that can also attack. I believe all of the companions can attack, but some of them are actually only for the buffs, so you don't want them to attack and end up dying. The champion, and the captain is also a heavy armor fighter and a melee fighter, but he also does have ranged abilities, a few ranged abilities. But for the most part, he is really good at his support role. The champion is probably one of my favorite classes because you can dual wield weapons. You're in the fray, so you get to wear the heavy armor, and you can either dual wield or use a two-handed weapon. If you do end up choosing the champion, I would recommend going the AoE spec, which is the yellow line. We call specs lines in LOTRO, so you have a red, a blue, and a yellow line. So depending on what class you're playing, depends on what all is there and available for you. Some blue lines are not specifically for like tanking, and red isn't specifically for DPS, and yellow isn't specifically for support. Basically anything, if your character can tank, then you'll have options in normally the blue line, but it's not always in that line. I would recommend checking out all of your traits and everything. Next, we're going on to the Guardian. The Guardian is your main tank of LOTRO. So basically, Swordboard Guardian is beefy boy. He likes to take damage, and he likes to help out his team by not letting any monsters get past him. So I actually really like the Guardian. I know that the red line, the Guardian, can use a two-handed weapon and can level fairly well. They actually can solo fairly well now compared to how it was back whenever the game had launched, and even for a little while. I think they had a rework a few years ago, and that's what really helped the Red Line stand out to be able to do solo with, because a lot of people aren't playing the beginning areas of the game as often anymore, so it definitely helps to be able to solo, so that gives you an option to solo. The Hunter is another really good starting character in my opinion, because they get a lot of really good abilities. Not only are they ranged, and they just went through a rework, and I haven't gotten to play the new rework yet, but I'm probably going to jump into it at some point. But they get travel skills, so you can travel around Middle Earth, and you can even take your party with you, which is really convenient. So if you're playing in a party setting with you and either one other person or more than that, I would definitely recommend, if nobody else wants to play the Hunter, to pick it up, just because the travel abilities are good and you can solo very, very well. But even in a party setting, it's a lot of fun to be the Hunter. The Lore Master is kind of like a wizard. I don't want to say that and come off as it is a wizard, because it's kind of a wizard, but it's kind of not. So they also get animal companions, which is really cool. And each companion does different things. Like the eagle actually will resurrect you if you die in combat or get knocked out in combat, because in Lord of the Rings Online we don't die, we just completely lose all of our morale. So Lore Master is really cool. They're definitely really good on damage, and if you run them with a group, you could run them as support, but they are a little more difficult to be good at. Anybody can play any of these classes, and you don't have to take any of my recommendations because they are just recommendations. But I would recommend not playing the Lore Master unless you have somebody who knows the game that can help you with it, or if you are experienced in the game and you're just trying to find another class that you want to play. I personally did not find the Lore Master difficult to play. I found it to be difficult to play well, and that's where I struggled. But I built my character as a damage dealer instead of as a support, so your mileage may vary. So next we have the Mariner. The Mariner is the newest class that has been added to Lord of the Rings Online, and I personally have not actually played the Mariner. I know that they have a fighting, a different fighting style than just basic characters, so you kind of have to balance your offensive and defensive / supportive abilities, or else you end up almost crippling your character temporarily in combat. Nothing too extravagant or too terrible. I think you can get dazed or stunned. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't played it, but I have watched a few things. So I would recommend Mariner to only people who are either really wanting to play it. I would probably not recommend this as your first class, because it might turn you off of the game in its entirety. So I would definitely not do Mariner, and of course it costs money, so I wouldn't purchase it unless you end up enjoying the game enough to want to try the Mariner. But the Mariner also does get travel skills, kind of like how the Hunter does. I'm not sure if they can ferry people with theirs, but they actually use boats as their transfer or teleportation or travel abilities, which is pretty interesting. But yeah, they have a balance, basically a balance bar as their combat, so it's definitely something different. And I would recommend, if you like the Warden or even the Runekeeper, it might be closer to the Runekeeper for sure, but I'm not 100% sure. And then we have the Minstrel. So the Minstrel is basically the Bard of Lord of the Rings Online, except it's funny because it says that it is a healer role, but it actually is a really good damage dealer as well. Minstrels, I believe, were the original healers of Lord of the Rings Online. So the other cool thing is you can actually play real music in the game as a minstrel. I'm not sure if everybody can, but I know minstrels basically get that ability starting out, which is really cool. And not only can they heal and deal damage, but they get all those instruments, and I think that the instruments, just as a cosmetic, just look really, really nice. So definitely something to do if you're more of a healer kind of player. Then you could do that with a captain or a minstrel. Both of them do very, very well in their support roles. Alright, so the Runekeeper is the closest thing to a mage you're going to get in Lord of the Rings Online. And they can also be a healer, but the Runekeeper is very similar to how the Mariner is. You basically build up your attunement, and you can choose like which way you want to go. So you can choose to focus more on damaging abilities or healing abilities, and you almost have the same kind of balancing beam, because at certain points it makes certain abilities stronger, and then whenever it goes to the other end of the spectrum, other abilities become stronger. And last but not least, we have the Warden, which is one of my favorite classes. They can tank. They're medium. I believe that they use medium armor, though. They have a gambit system, which is basically you use specific abilities, and then you get to activate a more powerful ability based on the combination of abilities you've used. So I personally think that the Warden is one of the most fun characters to play, but that's also because I've been in Lord of the Rings enough to understand it, and the gambit system can be difficult. It took me a while to learn it, but I would definitely recommend, if you're into, you know, a little bit of complex thinking, or even into, you know, playing games where you really have to learn combinations to make even more powerful abilities, the Warden's really cool. And with that being said, we're going to jump in. I'm just going to make a character real fast. And we're probably just going to jump in on the champion, just because the champion is probably my favorite, just because they're just basic. They're really easy to pick up and play, and you can be really good on the champion without being knowledgeable about the game. So I think that that's really cool too. So whenever you go into your character creation, after you choose your race and your class, you will, and if you want to, you can actually play the little movies that they have to get more of a description, but you do get a small description here, a few of the perks of playing each race, and negatives, of course. And then over on the other side for the races, or for the classes, it tells you what the difficulty is and the role. And of course, it also tells you other things. So, like, this class is inspired by Gimli, son of Gloin, whose skill and arms match the bow skills of Legolas. So it tells you even who the class is based off of, to give you a little bit more of a clear understanding of what they are. And so with this, I would recommend not choosing a different one, which I don't even know if you can choose a different. I know you can't skip the tutorial, but I'm not sure if you I guess you can choose Before the Shadow, but I would recommend Shadows of Angmar for your first time through the tutorial, just because it's not the best tutorial, but it gives you a lot of the understanding going into the game, how everything's going to flow. And if you go to Mossword, you basically out-level a lot of things that you have to go back and do. So I would recommend Shadows of Angmar is definitely going to be the best part of that. So you get to select your origin, which basically is just cosmetic flavoring. You do get a title based on whichever you choose for you to have on your character. And it looks like they've added a few, because I don't remember Umbar being part of it, Rohan, Rune, or Harad, and Shagana? Not entirely sure how to pronounce that, I'm sorry. I just remember only having the options of choosing between Breland, Dalelands, and Gondor. So whenever you choose these, you actually not only get some lore based on it, but it actually changes what like eye color you can have and skin color you can have. So it's really interesting on how that end of the spectrum works. But we're just going to, because like even this, if I go to Dalelands and I go back to skin, the colors for the skin actually change just a little bit. So in Gondor, it looks like I can choose about the same all the way across the board. I do know that the eye color was different, but I don't know if they changed it so that you can just choose all of them now. Looks like you can choose all of them now. So apparently they didn't even worry about that. So we're just gonna make a new character. We're just gonna randomize, and it also gives you naming conventions as well, depending on which one you choose. So it's pretty cool. I'm just gonna randomize and just see if something works. Ringant Finn, sure. Cool, it worked. So there are also plugins you can manage, which is really cool. I'm not going to have any of these plugins installed. I think that that's something that you should do. I do like the Welcome to Middle Earth though, because whenever you level, it actually does show you like what you will attain whenever you go to the next level, and it also gives you some milestone stuff. So whenever you go to certain areas from like the movies, it pops up and gives you some quotes and images, and it just makes it pretty fun in my opinion. But that's what I would recommend. So we're going to hop into Middle Earth right now. I also want to see if I still have something saved here, because I want to make sure that we do this correctly. You awaken with the Ranger Strider before you. As he urges you to so, if you open the LOTRO store right now, and yes, I know it says Codstre, but I had to use that because my main account is still, you know, great. There's 2 codes you can use right now, or at least I believe you can use, which is Thank You 2025, which I'm not entirely sure if this one's still working. So if it works, then we'll get mithril coins and keys. So we're gonna hit that. Awesome. Oh, you also can pick a mount. You get universal ingredient packs, which will help for crafting, and a lesser elixir of virtue. So that's really cool. Mithril coins are really useful for basically everything, but we are going to go into here, and I'm going to click on this edit mode, and basically I don't have these 3 bags because I'm not a subscriber. This is a free account, but I'm going to take all of the slots that I have in my other 2 bags and put them into bag 1, just so that I can have everything in one bag. It makes it easier for me. If it makes it easier for you, definitely do that. And then you can also change how the bag is, so we could do it like this, which will make it really nice and convenient. It's handy. Then we'll just click the edit mode again. So we have all of these things right here. We're just going to move this to the bottom of the window. And now we're going to go back into the LOTRO store again. And there's another code that is going to be active until November 3rd of this year, okay? So we're going to want to put in Explore Our World, which is going to give you a whole lot of content, okay? So we're going to hit this. All right, so now we have quest packs for Central Gondor, East Gondor, West Gondor. Man, let me see if I can see everything that we just unlocked. Okay, so we basically have unlocked a 120 to 130 pack, 105 to 115. Looks like 100 quests and deeds for level 130 characters. The War of Three Peaks base edition, which is for levels 20 to 130, which is pretty awesome. You get the Yonder Shire, which is 20 to 23. The Yonder Shire is basically an addition to the Shire itself. So this is actually a place that a lot of people go after the Shire because they still want to stay in that Shire-esque atmosphere, and it actually has a really cool amount of quests there. You also get the Fate of Gundabad, which is 130 to 140. This one is the Further Adventures of Elladan and Elrorir. I can't remember how to pronounce their names, which includes 5 missions for levels 20 to the level cap. So you can continuously play these and level your character up because it'll scale for you. And then we also have the Wildwood, which is for levels 20 to 130. And there's 80 quests and deeds in the Wildwoods. So Wildwoods is north of the Undershire, or no, it's north of Bree. So definitely I would recommend getting these things while you can, because this is going to help you to be able to get to max level, as well as just give you more content than just what's for free right now. So I figured that that's something that I wanted to make sure that you guys got. So let's continue on just to get out of the tutorial here. Alright, so I don't know if I can attack. Nope, I cannot attack. So we are going to just snag this satchel real fast. Loot the gear, and it looks like we have a sword and a dagger. So we're going to just equip this, and then we're going to swap that out, and then take this and put this here. So we can dual wield on this character, which is really nice and convenient. This one is the one we started with, so we're going to talk to Strider, and we just have to use some abilities off of our bar. So, anytime now. There we go. And you do build up a point system called Fervor. So it's kind of like playing a rogue in what you calls it. It's almost like playing a rogue in World of Warcraft. So I normally set these up by cooldown and power cost. So these both cost 1 fervor, and then this one costs 2. So normally I set them up that way so I know which ones I want to run, what abilities I want to use, but it just really depends. But it's really cool that you start off with an AoE attack. It is literally just so good to have. Alright. But we are just going to finish this as fast as possible. Just because I think that the small tutorial that you get to go through is not only important so that it teaches you the game, but I also think that it's important because you get a lot of the backstory that you normally wouldn't get if you went through the other. And that's why I recommend doing the Shadows of Angmar tutorial first. And of course you do get a whole bunch of additional information, which I would read if it's your first time playing through, just because there's a lot of content that you're going to be going through and you want to make sure you know how to get through it. I've literally made probably 30 or 40 characters that, you know, I've deleted over half of, but I love playing the starting area. It's always been my favorite part of getting into Lord of the Rings Online. I just hope that you guys enjoy it as much as I do. So we just have to defeat a few more bandits, I believe, and then we should be good and out of the tutorial. The tutorial is very short, but you're getting a lot of story that you wouldn't get otherwise, and that's why I think it's so important. So take your time with it, read all the dialogue, just have a good time. I just don't want to spoil anything for anybody. Alright.
Go back to the shadow, fallen king.
I just absolutely love that. It's just super fun. But yeah, this is the end of that. It will show a little bit of a story after this part, so I'm gonna let you guys, you know, get all that stuff out. But yes, thank you. 2025 is one code, and then the other one is going to be Explore Our World. Both of those you can use right now. I'm not entirely sure when this video is going to be up, but it should still be up, and if it's not, then you should be able to, or at least the 2025 one, thank you 2025, might not be available, but Explore Our World is still going to be available until November 3rd. But yeah, I hope you guys had fun, hope you guys learned something, hope you guys at least try the game, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.